story to tell. Australia purchased second-hand F-111C and F-111G Fighter-bombers from the United States between 1973 to 1992. In the period 2007 to 2010, these aircraft were gradually decommissioned and replaced with the A-18F Super Hornets. In order to buy US aircraft, Australia must agree to strict terms on how to use it, put it in museum or dismantle it. The US even forced to bury the F-111 bombers after retirement. From November 21st to 23rd, 2011, 23 Australian F-111s were buried at the Swan Bank landfill site outside of Ipswich, Queensland. This event caused outrage not only by the aviation enthusiasts, but also the local authorities. Ipswich Council member Paul Turley commented angrily, "I am disappointed that there was no community consultation. The fact of the matter is that there is nearly 50 years of Australian history literally gone down a disused Ipswich coal mine." One of Mr. Turley's other pressing comments, "To be unceremoniously dumped in a rubbish tip is not a fitting end for something that has served Australia from the 1960s on." The F-111 was known to generations. In the early 1960s, the US Air Force realized that radar-guided surface to emitters, such as the Soviet SA-2, could hit slow, high-altitude bombers. So they came up with a new idea that was to build a bomber that could reach supersonic speeds at low altitudes, avoiding the range of the radar. At the same time, the US Navy was also in need of an interceptor equipped with air-to-emitters to destroy the Soviet bomber from afar. Secretary of Defense at the time, Robert McNamara, decided that the Air Force and Navy would only need one aircraft that could meet those requirements, and the two were forced to cooperate with each other to launch a new aircraft program. In 1962, General Dynamics won the competition. When the first blueprint was published, the aircraft was assigned the designation F, which was intended for fighters, due to its smaller size than the US Air Force strategic bombers. The F-111 was fitted with two TF-30 afterburning turbofan engines. The aircraft had a large payload, could carry 14 tensor bombs, and had enough fuel to fly a maximum range of 5,600 kilometers. One of the challenges facing designers when building the F-111 was that they needed an aircraft that could fly at very high speeds, but also take off and land on a short runway. The aircraft has a special design with variable geometry wings to suit the requirements of use. It could spread to take off on a short runway and flying at low altitude. When it was necessary to accelerate to fly at high altitude, its wings transformed into square wings. In addition, the F-111's breakthrough was that It was equipped with a terrain-flowing radar system connected to the autopilot. This allowed it to fly 60 meters above the ground, even at night or in bad weather. The early tests of the F-111 showed promising results, as it could fly at Mach 1.2 at low altitude or Mach 2.5 at high altitude. It only needed a 600 meters long runway for takeoff and landing. But the carrier-based version, the F-111B, was not as successful as expected. It could not exceed Mach 1 after many corrections. This version was later cancelled. The F-111 did not get off to a good start when it first entered service. After a squadron of 6 F-111s were deployed in Vietnam in 1968, 3 of them were damaged after 55 takeoffs due to technical failures of the wings. The US Air Force were forced to stop using the F-111 and spent $100 million on repairs. One of the biggest air operations that the F-111 participated in during the Vietnam War was Operation Linebacker II. The Vietnamese, also known as Điện Biên Phủ in the air. The F-111 has attacked North Vietnamese factories, air bases, and radar stations. In this fierce battle, 5 aircraft were shot down. Operation Desert Storm 1991 was the last time the F-111 appeared on the international battlefield. During Desert Storm, F-111Fs completed 3.2 successful strike missions for every unsuccessful one, better than any other US strike aircraft used in the operation. The F-111s were credited with destroying more than 1,500 Iraqi tanks and armored vehicles. The US Air Force decided to stop using the F-111 in 1998. Although efficient, the F-111 has high maintenance cost for every flight hour, and the US Air Force believed its F-15E squadron can perform short-range strike missions, while the B-1 can complete long-range missions. The United States retired all versions of the F-111 in 1996, while Australian planes remained in service until 2010. Australia's burying of its former F-111 veterans was a pity. In fact, while no one wanted to see veterans of the Royal Australian Air Force come to such an end, it was a requirement of Australian military arrangement with the US that they be securely disposed of. Greg Gray, former senior non-commissioned officer, US Air Force, explained the fuselages were constructed out of bonded panels, and that bonding used asbestos. This is why it was deemed prudent to bury them. So it was decided to bury them to take away the possibility of exposure to asbestos. My video about Australia F-111 ends here. Thank you for watching. If you find this video interesting, please give me your thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos.